Hello everyone, welcome to A Perfect Game. Technical play is needed for success, and if you're new to the game, looking to get your first invite or a top premier event, hitting that subscribe button is the first step. Now, I'm here to talk to you about Superheavy Samurai and how to hand trap them properly. So when we look at Superheavy Samurai out of Cyberstorm Access, it's a new combo deck that plays 40 monsters. A lot of its strengths are able to play 15 plus hand traps and to play through disruption pretty well, but there are a few choke points and optimal spots to hit the deck. Let's go over them. First and foremost, the top 3 hand traps against Super Heavy Samurai will be Droll, Gamma, and Ogre. But what's the proper way to use these? Let's talk about the less obvious one, Ghost Ogre. So when using Ghost Ogre, the premier spot is to hit the Wakaushi. However, you may play into Gamma, and you don't want to do that. Now, does that mean you don't take the risk? Well, maybe if Gamma is your only hand trap, then probably hitting the Wakaushi is just the best spot to do it. And then just hoping your opponent doesn't have Gamma. But if you don't want to take that risk and you have hand traps to back it up, then you can actually wait for the Link 1 effect. When they use their Scarecrow effect, they discard a card and try to summon to the zone. If you ogre that, they can't summon to the zone, they lose the body, and that can set them back a lot, especially if their one card is Wakaushi. Now, Droll, obviously Droll is pretty good, so I'm not going to necessarily talk about where to Droll. The only thing is, you really are just taking a chance to similar to Wakaushi. If your opponent does start Bike, when you go for the resolution to try to Droll, you are taking that risk as well. So there's something to think about as you're trying to hand trap them. Personally, you always just outweigh the pros and the cons. A lot of the end boards that they can really end on through Droll, it's not that impressive anyway. So if they have to do a bike play and you let them get the search and then you hit them later, the outcome is not going to be too detrimental. So you can take that risk. But a lot of times they'll end on just a Babushka or a Babushka Baron. The Babushka Baron line is really just there in case you have an out, maybe like a Kaiju or something to out the Babushka. They have the Baron there to back it up that now you have to deal with after. I don't always know if that's the optimal play, but that's something I was trying out at locals, and I'm looking forward to continuing to test the deck and bring you guys some more insight. Now, Gamma. As we talk about Gamma, what's the real ideal spot to Gamma? A lot of times, if your opponent is starting with Piercer, a lot of the best place to Gamma is probably the Link 1. Ideally, stopping the Link 1 is really strong, having them lose the body. If they start with a weaker normal summon, not Piercer, maybe start with Peacemaker or Wagon, just hitting the Wagon is strong because it clears the body off the board. Similarly, you can Ogre the Wagon, but talking about Gamma, Gamma is really strong there as well. So those are the most high impact hand traps against the deck. I think those are the most obvious. Now let's talk maybe about some low impact hand traps. So if you're thinking about Veilers, you're thinking about Moonlit Chills, you're thinking about Bells and Crows. These are not great against the deck. A lot of times, if you just have Ash and your opponent starts with Kaushi, maybe they don't have access to Piercer. So being able to Ash the Big Bang Key is pretty good. Otherwise, Ash is not too strong. If your opponent starts Peacemaker, not Peacemaker, Piercer, so your normal summon Piercer, they link off, go for the effect. Ashing there is not efficient because they can just pitch a card and go into a double link 1 play. That's why it's really important as a super heavy samurai player that you set up your zones to the left. So when you do your double link 1 play, you still have the zone set up in the middle and the far right for Genius. So if they start Piercer rather than starting with Kaushi, your Ash really gets very ineffective there. So when you're building your deck, thinking about Ash as a hand trap, maybe you cut it, maybe you just want it for the longevity of a tournament, just having a hand trap that's very versatile. And then very low impact hand traps, Veiler, Moonlit Chill, those are hand traps that are all right. Being able to hit the Excel or the Link 1 won't do a whole lot, but I always think that just being able to blank the Link 1 is really strong because if you do try to wait maybe for the Excel play, they may have a Peacemaker or a Wakaushi that can kind of get them back into the level 2 to make the burn anyway. So I just think always blanking the Link 1 is just pretty strong generically. And as you're building out your hand trap lineups currently, to play against Super Heavy, I'm currently playing about 3 Gamma, 3 Ogre, 3 Chill, 3 Ash, 12 to 15 hand traps, just to kind of get the consistency of drawing at least 2. And I really think that Super Heavy is a really strong deck. And when you're trying to hand trap this deck, you got to understand what's the opponent trying to do? And that's that's really about just practicing, just being very methodical and really trying to play around the most things as possible. But a lot of times, Droll is going to be the bane of your existence. If you play super heavy, there's a lot of other hand traps to hurt as well, like shifters. So that's all I have for you. Just wanted to give you guys a short video. If you guys have more questions about different interactions, about how to play around hand traps or how to play through hand traps as a super heavy player, I'm always posting replays in the Discord. You can always comment down below on the video as well. Very responsive there, but just really when you're building the deck, starting with Ogre, starting with Gamma, and starting with Droll, and then moving to something like a Chills or a Veiler, and then like Ash as the next hand traps. So yeah, stand your ground, everyone.
Stand your ground.